Legislative Playtime. Stephanie Hansen, former Newcastle County President, now with the law firm of Young, Conaway, Stargett and Taylor, is here, and so is Michael Stafford. He's also a Wilmington attorney, columnist, and MSNBC contributor. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Glad to have
Good to see you.
back. You know, we all work in Wilmington. We come to the city every day. The mayor of Wilmington, Dennis Williams, has launched all of these crime-fighting initiatives. You know, we have Cure Violence, Operation Disrupt, all these names to go with adding more police on the streets. Do you feel like we're on the right track?
I think so. Yes, I do. I mean, I've worked right on Rodney Square, and I've had an occasion to talk to a lot of people that have worked there for a long time. And I think what I'm hearing back is that over the past couple of years or so, they have seen a decrease in things like panhandling and in loitering that before was actually keeping people in their office. I mean, I know even personally myself, I used to spend a lot more time. I've worked downtown since the early 2000s, 2001 actually, and I at that point would spend more time going to Market Street to have lunch. And then it got to the point where I couldn't go from Rodney Square to a restaurant on Market Street without being panhandled 3 or 4 times. You don't have that problem as much now, and there's been a decrease over just the past couple of years because of that. And I think that that contributes a lot to the people's sense of safety.
Well, you know, I mean, Wilmington's really 2 different cities, isn't it? I mean, there's an urban core that is sort of it's like any other city in the first world, and then there's failed state Wilmington, and the neighborhoods where most of the shootings are happening, where most of the violent crime is, those aren't the same areas that people who are commuting into the city are working in. It's not the gentrified areas. You know, it's not the hip neighborhoods. It's Hilltop. It's places where people who work in the city, even for years, we don't venture. We don't walk down those streets. I think the mayor's policing initiatives are a necessary component of the solution, but I think if we diagnose the problem as being an issue of merely of policing and public safety, we're missing the bigger picture. I mean, we are dealing with systemic issues that impact not just our own city, but society more broadly. The loss of jobs, you know, the impact. I mean, poor urban planning. We've got a 95 corridor that cuts through the city like an open wound, and the solution is going to have to be broader than just putting a few more cops on the street and creating a homicide unit.
You know, there are those pockets of high crime in Wilmington. Then you have your downtown district, and then there's that business district. But, you know, in the news, there was the news of a mugging of a high-profile bank CEO. I mean, did you all hear about that?
Yes.
Right in heart of downtown.
Right.
And then you have this Newsweek article calling Wilmington Murder Town, USA.
Right.
I mean, have you had friends?
It's a place to kill somebody, right? Exactly.
Right.
I mean, the numbers are large. I mean, when you look at the crime statistics, Wilmington is proportionally a very dangerous city. But again, so much of that is concentrated in just a handful of neighborhoods. We've got these pockets, these very dense pockets of significant poverty, and then we've got areas that are much more safe. So,
well, I think the perception is that has been created by the article, particularly the whole murder town thing, is causing people to be a lot more on edge and more frightened than they were in the past, without any more basis in their own personal experience. And I don't think it's helping. I think that we really have a lot to get past that at this point. But like I said, if you go out and you talk to the people that are actually working there and that have been working downtown for, you know, a decade or more, I mean, I can't say 100%, but I'd say at least a good 50 to 60% of them are saying they feel a lot safer. I know I do.
but it becomes an economic development issue, because if you're working at a company that's thinking of relocating offices here to Wilmington, you Google the name of our city, the first thing you find out is that it's one of the most dangerous cities in America. It's got this skyrocketing crime rate and no real solutions, you know, at least near-term fixes on offer. That's a deterrent to people moving here. That's a deterrent to businesses relocating here.
I think Stephanie has a good point, though. The perception is worse than reality, because
Yeah.
I know that working here, living here, I don't feel like I'm in danger when I go out to lunch.
We're not in the neighborhoods where the majority of the violent crime is.
But we're not far off. You know, it's a matter of a block or two in some cases.
But that block, that might as well, it's like the Berlin Wall. If you look at crime patterns in Wilmington, it really is segregated into a handful of areas. Our perception is accurate for the urban core. If we were in if our offices were located in one of those high crime neighborhoods, we'd have a completely different picture.
Right. You know, Attorney General Matt Dehn has kind of splashed onto the scene since he's taken office. And he had this news conference not too long ago announcing he wanted to ask the state for some money to increase foot patrols within the city of Wilmington. I didn't see Mayor Williams there. Do you feel like he's doing the right thing, or maybe he's overstepping a little bit? Or just trying to make a good name for himself as the new AG?
I think he's doing the right thing, and I think he is trying to make a name for himself. And I don't think either of those two things are bad. Matt Denn did a wonderful job with the insurance commissioner's office. I mean, he's an effective, good leader, and I'm really glad to see him stepping up to do it. And I don't know why Mayor Williams wasn't there. I think it raises a question as to why, but it certainly doesn't raise a question in my mind as to whether Matt ought to be doing it, because Matt will get it done.
Wilmington's too important economically and culturally for the state, for state elected officials to take a back seat on addressing some of these issues. I mean, Markell hit it in his State of the State address. What happens in Wilmington affects the entire state, even all the way down to Del Mar.
Let's go over to senior tax breaks. Heading over to Dover, Markell announced he's thinking about cutting these senior property tax breaks for the seniors over 65, and it's kind of raised a stink.
It has. Well, nobody who votes? Senior citizens. who has the time to write angry letters to the editor? Who calls their elected officials senior citizens? That's a very powerful, very vocal community. Who votes in school referendum elections? Senior citizens. And Markell's timing was unfortunate in raising this issue prior to two very important school referendums that we're having up here in Newcastle County. My question for the governor is, there's this thing called progressive taxation that we seem to have forgotten about in Delaware. When I look at it, and it's not just the senior tax initiative. It's true with the gas tax, with the water tax, taxes that basically hit all of us the same. There's a vast difference between a senior citizen living in poverty, just getting by, and people who are living in large McMansions, or who are moving here from New Jersey or Pennsylvania or New York, relocating into retirement communities, and then they're going to complain about a couple of $100s added to their property tax bill. Most tax breaks are means tested. Why can't this one be? I think that could be an effective solution.
And a lot of Republicans are saying, look, we got to cut and save money and cut expenses. This would save $12.5 million.
Well, yes, but I don't think realistically taking away the tax break for all seniors is really even on the table. I mean, because you really can't. There is such a difference between the senior that is making a decision between, do I buy groceries this week or do I buy my medication, as opposed to the other folks whose biggest concern, whose big concern is, how can I gift away parts of my estate by the end of this tax year so that I'm giving it to my children rather than having it all go someplace else. So I think that really what this is going to do is it's going to cause a discussion to happen about whether this tax break really ought to be for every senior, just based on the fact that they're seniors, or should it be more based on income? Maybe it doesn't make sense at a certain income level and above that they're getting a $250 or $500 tax break a year.
Agreed.
Well, we will see in Dover how all of this unfolds. Thank you so much, Stephanie Hansen and Michael Stafford. State of Play is also on newsworks.org/Delaware. Just look for it in the drop-down box at the top of the page.